Welcome back to Boom and Bust. I'm your host, Tony Clement, having a conversation with Thomas Caldwell. He's the chairman of Caldwell Securities in Toronto. Tom, let's unpack our initial discussion here. One of the things that you mentioned were the interest rates. Of course, in 2023, they were going up. They've kind of steadied at the last Bank of Canada meeting. Do you think that this is going to be the case in 2024 as well, or even a reduction? What's put on your predictor's hat? What do you think is going to happen there?
Well, that's my job, predicting. Some days I do it well. Some days I should not be downtown by myself. But it seems to me that interest rates at the present time are where they should be, give or take. So I can't see a further increase at the present time. I think we'll probably be this level for a period of time. And I was speaking to U.S. and Canada because we're just going to follow off.
Right.
I do think that you may see some slight reduction as you get further on into the year. So I think the net result, they've got to pause now because inflation is coming down. Now, a lot of it is you see the tremendous decline in energy prices, for example. All of a sudden, the whole oil and gas business has changed dramatically. Now there's tremendous supply. The cartels are falling apart and supply is coming on the stream. Now, that may be temporary, but I do think that that's underpinning this reduction in inflation. But like it or not, there is still angst and concerns out there in the real world mass of population, coping with costs, coping with lots of things going on. So I think interest rates will stay the same and probably ease off a little bit as we get into next year, which is great. That's good enough. That's where we have to be. I think they've done the job with interest rate. And remember, interest rates are only part of the story because it implies a reasonable government. You've got governments that are spending money tremendously, like drunken sailors. I mean, Canada and the United States. So It's pretty hard to contain inflation when you're flushing the system with spending to buy votes. Because remember, this is an election year coming up. So there's going to be a lot of money thrown around trying to buy votes. So inflation may or may not ease off, but it's because of the fiscal component, not the monetary component.
Interesting, and that is probably very true in terms of the U.S. Congress. They even when they have these political battles over funding for Ukraine, the thing that's holding it up is a massive increase in funding for the border, which of course is spending in another form. So interesting point there. Let's go back to oil prices just for a second. Obviously, that has an impact on Canada consumers, but also producers as well. There's been a number of OPEC meetings the last couple of months trying to steady the price and reduce production as a way to get the prices up a little bit. You don't think that that's going to be successful, I guess, in 2024?
It's hard to say. You know, the OPEC is a little bit like herding cats. No insult to cats, but what's happening is you can't keep everybody in place because people need the money. The Russians need the money,
right?
Period. And so the Saudis can say, well, we want to ease off, but they're quite mercurial in their thinking. They may say, well, okay, we're going to curtail supply and we're going to bid this price up. Oh, we can't do that. Okay, let's flush the system, drive down the price of oil, and see if we can go for market share. So it's almost like it's not rational, particularly out of the Saudis, that they are quite mercurial in their thinking. But my gut feel is that oil prices will probably come up a little bit from here. They've come down from, I don't know, what is it, 80 some odd dollars, high 80s now into the 60s. I think they'll bounce back up in the 70 to 80 range. But that's no more than a guess these days because there's so many artificial things in there. What are they going to do with the strategic stockpile, releasing or not adding to it? There's so many variables in the process that it's very hard to predict. But I would say a $70 to $80 range is probably pretty reasonable. And by the way, all the oil companies and energy companies do very well at that price level.
For sure, yes. These days they've factored that in. We got about a minute left before the next break. Any initial comments out of the COP meeting on climate change in Qatar and their result to transition out of petroleum and oil-based products?
You know, I was thinking of the phrase, just shut up. You know, I'm so tired of hearing all this talkity talk and you know, climate change, it exists. And when they're farming in Greenland again, this is going to be serious. But like it or not, climate change has been a fact of life. One of the great warming periods in human history is during the Roman Empire, which was one of the most prosperous periods.